Okay. So far you have seen classes, and you have seen the extensions of the classes also. Uh, and you already know that when we are extending a class, that we can override the methods that are defined in the superclass, right? But the abstract classes is a slightly modified version of the similar kind of thing. But abstract classes are something that will enforce the implementation of those. Okay, what do I mean by enforcing it? Okay, abstract classes are the classes that will give certain rules for the child classes that are extending these classes. Okay, like say for example, it will enforce the child class to actually implement a certain method. You already saw similar kind of behavior in when it comes to constructors. For constructors, it's a universal rule. When there is a constructor accepting certain parameter, you have to have the similar constructor, whether you have similar constructor or not, but you have to call that constructor from your child class constructors in one of the child class constructor, right? So that rule you already are aware of. If you don't have that, you have that the other methods. In case of run method, you know that the run method, though even though you can override it, but it's not mandatory. Whereas with the abstract classes, that will become mandatory. I'll show you how it becomes mandatory. So we can create abstract class by putting a keyword called as abstract after the public access modifier. Okay, if we say public abstract class hello world, and then that class will become a abstract class. What happens if we mark a class as abstract is we cannot create objects of the class, which means we cannot instantiate the class. Reason being, there are some methods for which the definition is not yet provided. I'll show you in the code. I'll just show you in the code so that you will understand it much more clearly. Okay. For example, take this example. Okay, the game class is actually here marked as an abstract class, and along with that, another thing that we have to do is when we mark a certain class as abstract class, we have to define a method, but we should not give any body to it. For example, take the line number 10 in the left screenshot. There, public abstract void start, but it is not like any other method you have seen so far. I have not given any body to it. There is no logic associated to it, right? So what it means is abstract means it's just an abstract idea. Okay, there will be at some point, at later point in future, whatever class that may be extending this game class, that will be enforced to actually write code for this start method. If you don't, then it will simply be throwing an error, or not throwing an error. Even the child class should also become an abstract class. Okay, take for example, the example screenshot in the on the right side. So that screenshot in line number 10. Sorry. Guys, can you hear me now? I think my internet got unstable in the middle. How about now? Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, now. So here is an example of abstract class. Here game is an abstract class, whereas the simple game is a child class that is extending the game class. And because we are actually implementing the start method, simple game can be a game. So because as is mentioned, we just have to mark a certain class as abstract to make it an abstract class. And also there has to be a method in which there has to be an abstract method in the class definition, as in line number 10 in the left screenshot. Now, that is the public abstract void start method. Whenever there is such abstract method, yes, sir, Lakshmi?
What is the use of
abstract class? As I was just mentioning before, it will give you a rule. Okay, for see, development will happen by many people, right? Is my voice still breaking or is it fine? Okay, I understood your question. What is the use of the abstract classes, right? I'll just answer that question in a moment. Okay. So the abstract class, okay, in real world application, how it will happen is this: there will be one parent class and there will be many child classes, and also multiple developers will be working. How will you tell the other developer that, okay, you have to extend my class and you have to give implementation to so and so method? Any idea on how we can achieve that? We can achieve that very easily. Yes, we can send emails, we can write documentation and all. But if we make it an abstract class, whoever is extending your class, whatever class you have written, he will be enforced to write it. So he will be knowing that he has to do something, right? So that is the use of the abstract class. It sets a rule so that other developers won't miss it, or they won't give a different definition to that method, like, or they don't change the return data type, or they don't change the input parameters that it accepts. So they know exactly what is the method they have to implement. Okay, so is that clear?
Yes.
Okay.
So whichever method is defined as abstract should be extended in the child class, right?
Implemented in the child class. That's it.
Okay.
It should be implemented in the child class.
Okay.
Okay. So, or even the child class should also become an abstract class, so that future developers who may be using that child class will be forced to do that.
Okay.
Okay. So, and there is another way of setting this kind of rules, that is using interfaces. Okay, as you have seen, abstract class is just used for actually enforcing the method definition, right? And interfaces are also used for that. Okay, and so here also an interface is specifically used for that. In interface also we can give certain method declarations, and the definitions will be enforced in the classes that are implementing the interface. Okay, interface is another type of data type that we can create in the Java. Okay, so interfaces, the only difference is that in interface, all the methods are by default abstract, and we don't have to give any keyword like abstract. You will understand when I show the code to you. And all the methods are implicitly public. Let me demonstrate both of these to you. What exactly I mean by abstract class and what I mean by interface. First things first. Now, I don't want to have a run method definition in here because I am creating different versions of my game, right? So I want to enforce that all my classes that are extending this game should implement that. So how can I do that? I can do that by simply marking this class as an abstract. So now let's actually create a Java class, simple game, and let's say this is extending game. And because there is such a specific constructor, we have to implement that constructor. Otherwise, it wouldn't allow us to. So here is the constructor that will be enforced, and there are no other rules so far, right? Now, what I want to do is, yes, we can, if we want, we can write this run method. But let's imagine this run method is not there. Okay. Now, how do we enforce that all the child methods should have this run method? We can do that by marking this class as abstract and removing the body. Just put a definition like this. So because this method does not have a body, this method should also become an abstract. So when we do this, now what happens is this. This class will become abstract. What is the side effect of that? We cannot directly create objects of the game class. We can only create objects of the children class. And now let's say in simple game, now if you see the simple game is showing error because class simple game must either be declared abstract or implement the abstract method run. So now, as I said, there are two ways. One is either we can mark this as abstract, which means we cannot create objects of simple game also. But if that is not what we intended, we can simply provide definition for this run method. So if we don't give a definition for this method, it will simply throw an error. The program won't even compile. Now the side effect of it, you cannot create game object. Now, why? Because it says game is abstract. Because when we are calling the run method, because in the game class, run method does not have any definition, so it doesn't know what to run, right? So there is no sense of creating and allowing others to actually make an object of the game class. So the reason is as simple as that. But you can create a variable of it and refer any object of the child class. Now I can refer that variable because, as I said earlier, whenever we call, even though the variable is of parent class, if the object is of child class, the run method will be from the child class whenever we call that, right? So run method need not be having a body in game class for the game method game.run to run here. Okay, because the object is actually a multi-scrambler game. So run method will be from that class. Whereas if in this case, the object, because the Java does not know that, okay, game class does not have any body, Java doesn't know what to do. So that's why it won't allow us to create any objects of the any abstract class. Now here we can create a variable like this, and we can also create a variable and as well as object if the class is not doing that. And as you know, if I don't provide the definition for this, I have to mark this abstract. So now I have to mark this abstract, and now my main method will start failing because simple game is abstract. I cannot create any abstract object. Okay, so that's the rules with abstract classes. So now the other thing that I just introduced to you is the interfaces, right? So let me show you what an interface is. Let me make this back. Okay. Now, a couple of sessions back, I have introduced to you that we cannot actually create, say for example, we cannot have multi inheritance, right? Multiple inheritance. That means we cannot extend from multiple classes. We cannot extend this simple game from extends game, loopy game. No, we cannot do that. Java does not allow us to extend multiple classes. Now, but what if we want to have different sets of abstract methods that are coming from different sources? So what if we want to enforce so a simple game so that it will also implement XYZ method. One way is we can put those abstract methods in the game class. But what if that has nothing to do with game class? Because if we put this here, it will ask us to create everything over here, right? Like, so for example, if we want to create a new abstract method here, public abstract void some X method, what will happen? All the methods will fail because unless we implement that that method in all the classes that are extending it, it will simply allow us. It will simply not allow us to create that. That means alternative way you may be thinking is create another Java class and make this abstract and public void X. Define like this. Okay, this also has to be abstract. Define like this, but then the problem is how can this game class, simple game can extend both of them? Because as I said, as I showed you just now, we cannot extend from multiple classes. So that's why Java has provided an alternative called as interface. So interface is very similar to a class. Okay, instead of we don't have to mark anything abstract. Interface is something that we create by using the keyword interface instead of the keyword class. And now we don't have to mark as any interface as abstract. Interfaces are by default abstract classes only. Okay, now then we can give any set of public void white. Okay, rules. Okay, so we can give all these definitions. And now, how do we enforce our simple game to enforce the rules that are there in X? We can do that by using a keyword called as implements. So our simple game extends game class and implements interface X. Now, when we do that, now what happens is public class must either be declared abstract or implement abstract methods in method X in X. So now what is happening is it will simply force us to write the methods for these bodies. So it's the same mechanism, same purpose, but now what happened is no other class got disturbed. Now loopy game is fine, my simple game is fine, my okay, I don't have any multi-scrambler game is fine. So every other class is not disturbed, but certain extra rules have been enforced on the simple game alone by making this implement an interface X. Now, the real benefit of the interface is we can implement multiple interfaces. Like if I have another interface named Y, I can simply use that. Okay, and it's not necessary that I create any methods of this. Sometimes I can use these interfaces just for the purpose of marking. To marking, what do I mean by marking? It's just an indication, to give an indication that okay, this can also do so and so thing. That kind of things are also there. There are some interface called as marker interface where there is no method to be enforced. Okay, so this is in interface. Interfaces are essentially an abstract classes wherein all the methods are public and no methods have any method bodies. Okay. So did you understand this concept of what is an interface? Why we have interface?
Yes.
Okay. So to put it in short,
So, if there is any logic run method in the X class, it can also be implemented, including the game.
I'm sorry, your voice is so much breaking. Is my voice is also breaking that much today?
No, your voice is clear. Sri Lakshmi voice is so breaking. I can't
Okay.
understand.
Can you type the questions, Lakshmi?
Yes. Is my voice clear now, or do you want to type action?
It is still kind of breaking, but it's coming very slow. Like, is my voice? Yeah, that's how we are getting. Your voice is coming to us.
Okay. So
Maybe your husband is on some other call. Okay, while she. Okay, got. Okay, multiple class methods can be implemented in the same class if we use interface, right? Okay, multiple class methods. Okay, interface is not actually a class. So, but in other sense, yes, you will be able to get methods from multiple classes, and rules, different rule sets will be enforced on our classes that are coming from different classes. Okay. Yes, even though the class word is exactly not perfect, but yes, you can say that. And Bindu, you have any question, or if you have any more question, ping me, Selection.
No.
Okay. And with Java 8, actually, there is some small improvement that they have made. That is, we can also create some methods with bodies, public, void, ABC. It may do whatever, and these have to be marked as default. Okay, now what happens is these methods can be there. Now the ABC method is coming from X interface, whereas Y interface is giving the DEF. Now in simple game, I will be able to actually access the ABC method, and I will be able to access the DEF method also. So the reason why they have given is because we cannot get method definitions from multiple classes by extends keyword. Here they have provided a different way of achieving the same thing through letting you actually create some method definitions in bodies in the interface. So in interfaces, we can create certain methods with the keyword default. This is new to actually Java 8, or it can be default or it can be a static. Okay, so we can give those definitions in the interfaces so that whatever class that is implementing X and Y or whatever the interface is, it will be acquiring all the methods that are there on those interfaces. Now, if I create an object of simple game, now I can in fact call this ABC and I can call DEF. I'm sorry, why is it not calling DEF? Okay, is DEF a static? In that case, I have to access it like this. Static method may be, okay. Because DEF is static, we can only invoke it by using this interface interface class name. Because how we have to use the class name for the static classes, we have to use the interface names. If it is default method, it will be behaving like any other method that is there in that particular method. In that class. Now, because that is a default method, now I can say G1 dot DEF, okay, or ABC. So now, if you see, interfaces allow us to actually implement or get features of multiple classes, whereas extends only allows you to get features from a single class. So that's the difference between an interface and an abstract class. Okay, so I hope this topic of interface and abstract class is clear to you guys. Otherwise, ask the questions. Okay, so now I have actually finished this. So let me start with another topic because we still have some more time. But as an exercise for today, research on a topic called a singleton. Okay, why I am giving you a topic to learn it on your own is because tomorrow after this sessions you may have to do that. So I would like you to get habituated to that. Research on what is a singleton and make the game class a singleton class. So while doing that, you will understand some more things related to this inheritance and all those things. Okay, so try to understand that. So I did not tell what is a singleton so far, but when you study about it, you will understand what it is, and you should be able to create a singleton in the Java program. Okay, so any questions on what you have to do as an exercise for today? Okay. Now, for today, I'll actually finish another small topic called as exceptions, so that you will be actually understanding a concept that we need when we actually use the other things. Okay, collection framework. Let me see what else I can finish. Collection framework. Okay. Yes, actually, I can finish the collection or exception. Okay, I can cover any of this. Okay, I'll finish the collections framework for today. And then the exceptions we will see tomorrow. Okay. Now, so far, you have already seen a way to actually store multiple objects of same type. Wait a second. I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth and as to what to tell because slightly I finished things a bit early today. Let me just explain you another thing.
So we can take it.
No. We don't have that. Okay, I'll tell you a very small topic. I don't have any PPT for that, but I'll explain what that is. Okay. Now, so far you have seen two different kinds of data type, right? One is primitive data type. Another one is the complex or custom data type. That is the data types that are coming out of creating classes, right? So the primitive data types, you may be remembering that int, float, and char, and double, boolean, long, short, byte. These are the primitive data types. Okay. Now, when it comes to the primitive data types, okay, when it comes to custom data types, we have some extra features. Like, say, for example, when we say scan dot, we know what are all the other operations that we can do. Okay, but there is if it is a primitive data type, new Java class. Class name may be sounding different, but you will understand what it is. Okay, now there are two different data types that you are creating. Say, for example, string is one data type that you are creating. Say S, and integer is one data type that you are creating. Now, if I say S dot, it is providing me extra functionality. Why? Because S is a class, so I can do lot of things, like say for example, I can convert it into uppercase, or I can find out if another string is there or not. I can split it. I can do lot of things on this string method. But when it comes to I don't have any such thing. Okay, if you see, I don't have any other things other than these. These are some things that are given by IntelliSense, that it is asking me to cast field. Field means it is simply asking me to assign it. For each, it is asking me to put it in for loop. All that things. So it doesn't actually give me any extra features, the integers. However, there will be several use cases that we will learn in future, wherein we will actually have to do lot more things. So on, say for example, integer numbers. So for that, what Java people have created is, they have also created a class version of these primitive data types. What do I mean by class version? Because the I is a primitive data type, it only takes 4 bytes. But what they did is, they have created a boxed version of it. They took an integer and they have created a class around it. So whenever we want to store a data in that, it will be storing that value in that inner object. Okay, so what they essentially did is this new Java class integer, and inside this they have created an int variable I or whatever, and they wrote some methods over here so that they can use it. Okay, now like this is called as boxing. Okay, so this is called as wrapping. Okay, so whenever they have actually taken the similar data type and they have enclosed it in a class, and they have also written some method x, y, z. I'll show you what those methods are, but bear with me for a moment. So they created a class versions of those primitive data types. So it will only store one single data type of that data type, okay, one single value of that data type. So an integer class will store an int data type, a single value. Now, how do we create it? Okay, so now let me delete this. I just created to show you what they did. We don't need that class because we already have an integer class. So integer, now if you see, the integer class is there in java.lang package. Integer, let's say int, let's call it a, and now there is this I which can be used to store an int value like 5, and there is this a which can also be stored to store int values like 10. Okay, so you will not see any behavioral difference in most of the cases. You will be able to access this as a regular primitive data type, but you will be getting a lot of extra functionality. So I'll show you what they are. If you say a dot, now you see there are a lot of other things. Okay, there is int value, short value, toString, double value. So it will be converting it into that data type, and it will be comparing it with another data type, and it will be doing a lot more other things also. And now integer class also provides a lot of other things. Like say for example, you already know how to read the command line arguments. Okay, in command line arguments is coming up as a string data type, right? So now let's say we have a 546. Now, so I think you already solved this problem. Do I remember correctly that I asked you guys to write a program that actually converts a string to an integer?
No.
Okay, I thought I gave. Okay, that's fine. So
Yeah,
now,
you give Prasad. You
yes,
did some program on converting
yeah,
string to integer.
yes. So you did some things, right? Okay, I think you forgot about it, Bindu, or maybe you missed that session. That's fine. So how do we convert this string data type to an integer? How can we assign that 546 value to this I? We have to convert this into a number, right? Because this is a string. Now you have written some using some for loop and all, but integer class by default provides that functionality. If I say integer dot, I get a lot more methods than what I can access from this A, because these are all static methods. Now if I say integer dot parse int, now this is where the magic happens. Now if I say parse int, and say give s, this will be returning an integer. So which I can actually pass it to either a int, primitive int, or I can pass it to a wrapped int like this. Now if I say print this x, now it will be printing 546. Okay, but this is an integer. We can add it to other numbers like int a equals to 5 plus x. Now this will simply be, okay, a is already defined, so this will be simply be added to this. Okay, earlier if we add simply s, what happens? It will become 5546. But now it will be added as an integer, so it will become 551. So that's how the wrapping of the primitive data types have worked. Now if we run this program, now if you see, this is 546. Okay, now if I print b instead of x, I should see 551. So it's just an integer division. Okay, it allowed integer division because we have converted this string to an integer. So integer.parseInt allows us to do. Now, so this is a wrapped version of this. And now when we say integer a equals to 10, this is essentially a primitive int. But again, this is getting converted to a wrapped int, integer object. That process is called as boxing. And also if we say I equals to a, now this is an object. Generally, we cannot assign objects to primitive data types because primitive data types only takes 4 bytes, whereas if we take this class, now if you see, there are a lot of data values in this. Okay, there is min value, there is max value, and there are a lot of character arrays inside. So it takes a lot more memory than simple primitive int. That more memory, how is it fitting when we say I equals to a? How is it that entire thing is fitting into 4 bytes of memory, where I is only 4 bytes? But this takes, as you have seen here, okay, it has this int, that means 4 bytes, and it has a class. This is essentially an address, but don't worry about what it is for now. And it has 26, it has some character digits array, which is around having 30 bytes. I'm sorry, which each character takes 2 bytes. So it is 60 bytes. Now, if you see, this object is taking a lot more, around roughly 70 to 80 bytes. How is that entire 80 bytes fitting into this 4 bytes? Actually, it is not. What happens is, whenever it will we do something like this, a process called as unboxing happens. So the unboxing is, what happens is, there is a specific data value, right? Whenever we say, where is the actual data getting stored? Percent, this is percent. Value of integer dot value of percent. Integer cache value of byte value. Float value. Okay. So now this also has a variable that is declared inside here, whose name is value. So whatever value, whenever we say like this, whatever value that is there in this int value, that will be copied onto this primitive value. So every other information will be stripped out, and this process is called as unboxing. And we can also say int a equals to I. So in that case, how this 4 bytes is becoming this 80 bits is, it is essentially becoming into something like this. When we compile that class, it will be converted into something like this. So this process is called as unboxing. So this happens automatically. You don't have to actually do that. If you have to do that, for other classes you have to do that. But for the box versions of the primitive data types, you don't have to do that. So how these int and integer are there, correspondingly, we have long as a small primitive data type, and we have long with capital L. Now you must observe one specific thing, that all the primitive data types will be having these all lowercase words, whereas the class versions of those primitive data types or wrapped versions will be having a capital letter. So it's in Java, it's a convention that every class will start with a capital letter, and it will be having following a camel case. What is a camel case? A class, every word, first letter of every word will be actually capitalized. So here multi is one word, scrambler is one word, game is one word. So here everything is every first letter of each word is capitalized. Same is applied for methods, but first letter will be smaller, lowercase. Where is this? Now, if I go to this create user, everything is lowercase, but so it also follows camel case except for the first letter. First letter has to be lowercase, and subsequent words first letters must be capital letter. So these are just convention; they are not rules. But if you in a project where you don't follow these rules, they will criticize you and they'll scold you for not following those conventions, because everyone else will be following those things. And variable names will be all lowercase, unless it is made of multiple words. In that case, it is okay to actually capitalize every first word. So these are simple conventions. Okay, you don't have to follow. Java will not throw you any errors, but other developers will feel bad if you are not doing it. And then, just like that, float primitive data type has float class version. Same case, double also has that. Double also has that class version, and Boolean also has that class version. Okay, so these are all called as class versions of this data, the primitive data. Okay, so and the boxing and unboxing happens automatically, and that's the reason why I named this class as boxing class. And so this is called as class version. So those class versions will provide you extra features. However, there are some limitations also. Like, so for example, there is this A. You cannot simply say A++. Oh, in Java 8, they have actually added this. So because A is actually essentially a primitive data type, but what happens is this. Let's say I have a variable of a type integer, say A, and I'm giving it value A, 10. Now, if I say A++, now let's print value of A. What do you think the output is going to be? Any guesses? So even for the increment operator, it behaves like a regular variable, integer variable. Okay, so that's a kind of what it actually does is it will be. But if you had observed in integer class, the value is marked as final. Okay, I have not explained you what final is. I'll explain that to you a bit later. So okay, in Java 7, however, it is not possible to increment the boxed version of operators. Okay, but in Java 8, they have actually allowed you to do all these increments and decrements just like any other variable. So it will be unboxing it, incrementing it, and then boxing it again. So that's the entire process that will happen in this instance. And now, so this is the class version of these data types that you will be able to use for the benefit in case you have to do some of it. In fact, when we start with collections, we have to actually use the boxed versions. Okay, we cannot use the primitive data types in the collections framework, and that is one of the reasons why I didn't explain the collection framework and came to this versions, boxed versions and unboxed, wrapped versions of those things. And then yesterday, Sri Lakshmi has asked a question about how we can handle date and all. So that to handle in fact, it's not a question, but in a passing she asked. So to actually access dates and all, we have data types called as date. And when we say date, D equals to new date, we will be able to create an object of this. But this date is something very old. In Java 8, they have created something called as local date, local time, local date time. So those things, date will only store the time date information, only the date. It won't store the time, and local time will only store the time information. If we say, and we can actually give a specific of, and we can give local date of. We can pass say some year 2016, 12, 19. Now, if we say like this, so this date is essentially December 19th of 2016. So now if we print D, now it will be printing it. Now let's actually show you. Now it is printing it in specific date format. Okay, we can do a lot of things on this data object also. We can adjust, and we can actually compare it with another data object, and we can do a lot of other things. Okay, we can format it, we can convert it to a different format, and we can get the month, day, get era, a lot of things we will be able to do. Okay? And we can check if a specific date is before another date or not, and how much duration is there between 2 days, and how much length, what is the length of that year. So we will be able to do a lot of things. Okay, now if you see, for example, take this example. Now, if we want to add, say, 29 days to this date, and find out what is the date after that. Now, d dot plus days, and then we will be able to give, say, for example, 29 days. Now, it will give us how many days will be after passing this. Now, if we say this, now it will become 27,170. So this is how it will simply be taking care of incrementing the year, everything. So the local date is the data type that will only store the date, as I said, and local time will store there are different ways of creating these local time objects. Okay, if you say local time dot now, it will actually storing the time of current time. Okay, at this point, whenever we have run this particular data, that will be initiated with this. Now, if you see, the current time is 7:59, and the same thing can be done for the local date also. Okay, now if you say local date dot now it will be printing today's date. 7/22 of 2016. Okay, and then we have another data type, that is local date time. That is essentially stores both time and the date information. Local date time dot, again we have the same things. We can pass off, in which we can pass year, month, day, hour, minute, and we can pass hour, minute, second. We can pass hour, minute, second, nanosecond. So there are different ways in which we can create object of this local time. And also we can say now. Then we say LDT. Now it is storing this entire information. Okay, and then along with the local, we have zoned date time and zoned date and zoned time, which can actually zone date time is can be used to actually store the along with the timestamp information. Okay, so that's the essentially what you will be able to do. So now if you see, but as I said, the date class is very old, but you have to be familiar. They may ask you for some information on these things in interviews if you attend some interviews. So I would actually like you to research on how to use date and all. You will use date like any other object, but you will have to actually use a different constructors, and there are a lot of some confusions between date and date time, etc. So that you will be able to let me just show you date dot from it takes an instant. When we create a date object like this, date D, okay, we already created date. Okay, so now if we run this program, we are printing the D1 object. So this also stored the current timestamp. Whenever we create a new object of date object, it will be able to create the new current timestamp. We will be able to do a lot more things on this also. We can compare this with other date objects and a lot of other things, but this has many limitations. I would suggest you to do what the limitations are yourself. Okay? And there is also something called as calendar. Calendar object also. We see calendar object is introduced in Java 1.5 to actually deal with the issues that are there in date. Date class is there since 1.2 version, which is like 15 years old. So more than 15 years old actually. And since then the date was there. So it has a lot of limitations. So they come up with something called as calendar. Again, it also has its own limitations. And then in Java 1.8, they finally come up with this new datetime API from java.time package, whereas the java.calendar and java.date are date and calendar are from java.util package. For all the new time related information from Java 1.8, they are actually placed in java.time package. Okay, so that's how there are different ways of handling the dates and times in Java. Okay, so this actually try to do that also. Okay, use those times and dates. Just at least read once so that you will be understanding why we needed new things. Actually, some time back, I myself have created some PPT. I may be able to find it and share it to you so that you will know the difference. But essentially, you will have to research on how to use the dates on your own. Okay, so any doubts? Okay, so either you guys completely understood or you guys didn't understand anything. So okay, now so try to do that exercise that I gave you. That is creating a researching on what a singleton is and make the game class a singleton. And there may be errors when you do that and try to see how to debug them. Okay, generally if you get some error, you will be able to search for that error. Like so for example, if it is throwing some error saying if I don't actually implement this method, it will be throwing some error, right? See, read that error. It may be clear as to what it is saying. It says, okay, a class must either be declared abstract or implement abstract method. Now, search for that method. Class must either be declared abstract or implement abstract method. So search for that error, whatever that you got. Then you will find lots of help over. There is a website called stackoverflow.com wherein it is specifically meant for programming related questions and doubts. If you see, there is a lot of questions and people will answer those questions. Even if you get some question, you can ask that if that question is not already there. So that's how you can actually be a programmer yourself. Okay, most of the time we don't actually know everything. We get some error, we will be looking, googling it, and we try to find a solution. If someone has already got that error, someone might have already resolved it. So we will find it, and Stack Overflow is one such very useful information. Now if you see, I search for this, and first 3 answers belong to that same site, Stack Overflow. But again, everyone is asking the same question different ways. So but don't expect any answer if that question is already there. Some people may even criticize you, why are you posting question even without seeing if that question is already answered and all. So first thing you have to do, Google for that error, what that error is. Try to understand this. Some people will give very nice explanations as to why that error comes, and some people don't give that much explanation but simply give you how to fix that error. Now this guy has written such a big question and asking for some answer, and this guy has given very good answer with some explanations. Okay, so that's how you will get a lot of help if you simply look for it in Google. Okay, so that's another thing that you have to inculcate. So that's it. Research on what singleton is. You will be finding loads of information, not at all difficult. So try to do that. And once you learn how to learn some things on your own, you can learn anything on your own. Okay. So that's it for today, guys. Have any questions? Ask me. Otherwise, we can stop for here. Okay. Okay. There was some chat. Okay. Fine. Thank you, guys. See you tomorrow. And okay, so tomorrow you said you are going out, right? So we'll see you on Monday. Bye.